one of the 5 reasons why I made this channel. I always wanted to make this marathon. Finally, I get to talk about one of my favorite franchises. In this marathon, I will cover every anime related to the Lodoss world, some manga adaptations and video games, and it will span 6 episodes. And for this video, it will be the classic OVA and what started it all for me. But first, let's go back in time to the fall of 1999, my freshman year of college. And that's when I met my best friend. Let's call him X. So, we hit it off rather quickly, and he was a fantasy anime junkie. I wasn't as hardcore as him. I was a robot anime junkie, a crazy Gunna guy and Gundam fan. So both of us were learning new things from each other. And the first thing he did is introduce me to the Lodoss world and all of its glory. He showed me everything related to this franchise, and it was an experience. It was like watching Lord of the Rings in anime form. It has all the basic rules for a fantasy anime, but was done in a way that embraces it. And I was like, how come did I not watch this before? And then on January 8th, 2000, my 18th birthday, X got me the birthday present of the ages, which is this marvelous Laserdisc box. And to this day, this is my favorite Laserdisc set. And this comes from a guy who has a Laserdisc room. It's my favorite format. My dad used to buy anime and movie Laserdiscs since forever. And then I got all of his stuff. So to say this is my favorite set, it's a big deal. It's just unique and cool. It glows in the dark. It has a rough sandy texture. The art for each of the 6 volumes is breathtaking. Some cool extras like a vinyl for an amazing soundtrack, and some great booklets you see in many Laserdiscs that cover interviews and concept arts. And on that same day, I got myself all the 2 Laserdisc sets for the TV series, which I'll talk about in the next video. But here's another reason why X is special. For my 32nd birthday in 2014, his birthday present was the Blu-ray. This amazing Blu-ray has one of the best transfers I've seen. Yeah, I say that a lot. And the fact that I only watched the OVA on Laserdisc before this really helps. I really felt the huge jump in quality. And when I saw it, I got this nice warm feeling. Not because of the Blu-ray or how great it is, because it is. But somehow I got a quick flash of my entire friendship with X that spanned great 15 years. Whenever I see Lodoss or think about it, especially this OVA, X comes to mind. He had everything related to the series. He breathed Lodoss. He was so passionate about this franchise, just how I am passionate about the robot genre. Record of Lodoss War is a huge franchise of fantasy novels, anime, and video games. It was created by Ryo Mizuno, and it's all originally based on a role-playing game called Sword World RPG. And in that game, the world is called Forcelia, and it has different continents. There is the Lodoss continent, the Crystania continent, and the Alakras continent. Each had an anime adaptation, and the game is generally influenced by, D&D, obviously. The core of the Lodoss stories comes in novels written by Ryo Mizuno. There are 7 main novels and also a prequel and side story novels. So let's talk about the ones I know and have a real quick look. The first novel, The Grey Witch, received an anime adaptation in 1991, and it was covered in the first 8 episodes of that adaptation, with minor changes of how the arc ends, and this is the anime I'm going to talk about in this video. It also received a manga adaptation later on, which follows the novel more closely. The second novel, The Demon of Flame, did not receive an anime adaptation, only a manga adaptation and a radio drama. The third and fourth novels, The Dragon of Fire Mountain, which received a loose adaptation in the last 5 episodes of the OVA, the anime for this video. And later on in 1998, it got more of a faithful adaptation in the first 8 episodes of the Lodoss TV series, which I will cover in the next video. The fifth novel, The Holy War of Kings, did not receive any manga nor an anime adaptation. The sixth and seventh novels, The Holy Knight of Lodoss, got an anime and a manga adaptation in 1998. The adaptation of those two novels started with episode 9 of the TV series. Deathless Tale side story novel. This novel takes place before the sixth novel's event, making it a story between the main books. It received a manga adaptation only. And finally, The Legend of Lodoss prequel novels. The events for this takes place before the first novel, and it only received an awesome manga adaptation called The Lady of Faris. So let us start with the first anime adaptation. Record of Lodoss War is a 13-episode OVA created by the awesome studio Madhouse in 1990. The OVA covered the first volume of the novels faithfully in the first 8 episodes, with the exception of tiny details being changed by the end of that arc. And the last 5 episodes, 9 to 13, it became a loose adaptation of the 3rd and 4th novels with an original anime ending, mainly because the novels were still coming out at the time. But that did not stop Madhouse from making this one of the most memorable anime of all time, for me. A legendary war that happened between the goddess of creation Marfa and the goddess of destruction Cardus in the southern coast of the continent of Alakrast. Cardus got defeated by Marfa, and then she cursed the land. And in order for Marfa to save the continent, she separated the land from Alakrast, and thus a new continent was formed in the Southern Sea, and it is called the Cursed Island of Lodoss. This island is filled with kingdoms, cities, cultures, religions, and all of that caused endless wars. Fast forward into a distant future, here comes Parran, a young inspiring warrior who wants to be a hero just like his father, and he embarks on a journey where he meets the rest of the cast and joins him on his journey. In that journey, an unknown witch is causing chaos in the land of Lodoss, and it's up to the 6 main characters to stand up against her. And at the same time, the people of the island of Marmo, led by Emperor Belt, is launching a war against the land of Lodoss. You know, these types of plots will always be amusing to me. Well, what can I say? I'm just a sucker for this. It's the cliche that I love and adore. And the story progresses in a way that surprises me. And during a short amount of time, the anime made me care about everything related to this world. Almost every city, mountain, and forest got a story. The world building in this is great, and the mythology just made me want to know more. That is always a good thing. And the characters, I just love them so much. And they're one of the main reasons why this OVA and the series in general is memorable. Since I love almost every character, I have no idea where to start. Or should I talk about all of them? But before I talk about the main 6, I have to talk about the legendary 6 heroes of Lodoss. So in the world of Lodoss, almost every generation gets a new set of heroes that saves the land. And those legends were part of a war that took place 30 years before the events of this anime. And that war was called the War Against Evil. That war and those heroes are mentioned in a song in episode 5 during a banquet. And the heroes are current King of Valis Fan, current Emperor of Marmo Beld, the Sorcerer Wart, the Dwarf King Flav, the Priestess of Marfanis. And finally, we have the Warrior of Magic, who in the song it says that she does not have a name. But if you paid close attention to it, you'll probably know who that is if you watch the anime. Now, this is interesting and I love it because all of those heroes now are either not existent anymore or they are on opposite sides, being enemies, which makes you wonder what the hell happened between those people. And it's amazing how during that song there were some secrets related to the story and characters. And I love the fact that the writers decided to make the audience figure things out on their own instead of explaining everything outright. They were subtle about it, and I appreciate that. Now let's talk about the new generation, the main cast, and the war they will embark on, which will eventually be called the War of Heroes. Parran the Warrior. He's really great because you see him grow up as a character from beginning to end. He's naive and pure-hearted, he's determined but he's not perfect, which makes him more believable as a character. Dietlit the Elf Magician is just one of my favorite female characters in anime. She's powerful, she uses a lot of fun elemental magic attacks. Most of the time she's happy and childish, which makes her adorable. She's originally from a place called the Forest of No Return, the home of the High Elves. She left that home in order to get to know humans, and eventually met Parran. Dietlit and Parran are basically the main duos of the show, and they are just great together. You know, it's Parran and Dietlit, what more can I say? Gim the Dwarf is the powerhouse of the group. His goal is to save Lelia, the daughter of the priestess niece, and during the journey he teaches Parran how to fight. He's not all wise though, since most of the time he's angry and just rushes to fight whenever it is related to Lelia. Slain the Sorcerer is the opposite of Gim because he's always cool-headed, and since he has a history with Gim, they have a nice dynamic. He uses cool magic attacks. I just love him, mainly because when it comes to JRPGs I always use the sorcerers, so he's automatically awesome. Ito is the healer or the priest, and Parran's close friend. This guy is just lovable and he cares so much about the characters. There isn't much to say about him though, but he's great nonetheless. Woodchuck the Thief. Well, he's a thief who uses daggers and knives to fight. Well, that's about it. In my opinion, he's the comic relief, and because of him, a perfect balance has been established in the group, and his role becomes more important in the story later on. Kashu, the Mr. Cool, is the perfect way to describe him. He's the king of the City of Flame, and I have to touch on this. Whenever they show a king or a superior warrior that is an older character, they always look grander than the main cast. They look bigger, they look more intimidating. Everything about them screams better. It just shows how this is like an RPG, that those characters are in higher levels, so they look more dangerous with their size and armor. And Kashu is voiced by Shuichi Ikeda, my favorite voice actor ever, mainly because he's the voice actor of my favorite character of all time, Char Aznable. And most of the time he voices those unforgettable mentor characters like Kashu from Lodoss, of course, Hiko Seijiro from Kenshin, Kite from Hunter x Hunter, Shanks from One Piece, and by the way, I don't think it was a coincidence that he voiced Shanks. Why? Because Shanks' nickname is the Red Hair, and Ikeda became famous because of Char Aznable, whose nickname is the Red Comet. Oh, and who played young Char? It was Luffy's voice actress, Mayumi Tanaka, and Luffy's idol is Shanks, who is voiced by Char's voice actor. Ooh, sorry I got off topic here. Anyway, his voice is just perfect for my ears. He always nails his roles and I recognize him instantly. The four villains, Carla, Wagner, Beld, and Ashram. I'm not going to focus on the villains because the less I talk about them the better, but I have to say, the diversity of these villains is just clever. What I mean is that all of them are so different from one another, with different goals and philosophies, yet they are basically from the same army, and that made me care about all of them. I'm constantly on the edge of my seat every time they're shown together because I often get the vibe that someone will betray the other at any given moment. Oh man, I'm going to praise the hell out of the art and character designs. I mean, almost everything in this anime can be used as a wallpaper. All the characters have that distinct look. No one looks the same. The pencil lines are orgasm to my eyes. Although not a gory anime, the blood used is perfectly balanced, even though I prefer super gory, disgusting stuff. The world looks gritty and sometimes colorful. The clothes and the armors of the characters is just awesome. They are just over the top spectacular. The dragons, those dragons look stunning and mystical, and they were shown on a huge scale. It just shows that Madhouse put a lot of care into this. As for the animation, some people may disagree with me, but the animation aged very well in my opinion. Yes, there are times where the animation is less impressive, but when it's less impressive, it's still above average. And when it is impressive, which is most of the time, it's just wonderful to watch. And whenever a magic attack is made, the animation and colors just pop right out, and the Blu-ray made it look beautiful. And as for me, this will forever look good in my eyes, because generally whenever I watch an anime or a movie or anything, I always put on the glasses of the time it came out. If it came out in the 90s, I'll put on my childhood 90s glasses. If it came out in the 70s, I'm gonna put my 70s glasses. If it came out in 2015, I'll put on my 2010s glasses. Because some might say this looks old. Well, of course, it's over 20 years old. So I always use this glasses method and gets transported back in time and judge it according to that time, even if it's decades before I was born. And this is how I enjoy every period. And the fact that animation is not essential for me to make a good anime makes it all easy for me. And generally, I love older stuff anyway because I'm old. I should have just said that. When I watched the first episode, 3 tracks got stuck in my head. And when I finished the anime, I realized this is the perfect soundtrack for a fantasy. It just works. Everything is placed perfectly and it's catchy and high in quality. The music was done by Mitsuo Hagita, who did the music for Giant Gorg and Gundam 0083 Stardust Memories. And I loved the soundtracks of those shows. He always gets the job done and makes a soundtrack that you can't imagine being played in any other anime. As for the opening and ending songs, the opening is just so 80s, even though this came out in 1990. Well, it makes sense, the 90s didn't really take off yet. And it's chill and calm, and the animation used in the opening is just mesmerizing. It sets you up perfectly for the anime. But I prefer the ending song. The nostalgia just hits the roof whenever I listen to it. I fanboyed all over this. There are still a lot of things I didn't say, but I might be here all day praising this. This OVA is important for the genre. Studio Madhouse hits the right notes in every department, even though they made an original ending, and I didn't feel like it was. Everything just felt safe with the plot, characters, and music, and that is not always a bad thing. It is a prime example that you can't take something familiar and been done to death and still make it great with the right people involved. And the animation and art blew my mind back then, and it still does. And I will forever love this anime for how amazing it is and how it means to me personally. It's a pure fantasy anime done right.